Hello, and welcome to Coffee with Cohen. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd. I think that we have made it to the live stream. Welcome to Coffee with Cohen. I'm Councilman Phil Cohen. I'm broadcasting to you today live from my home in Hoboken. Welcome to this, my 117th Coffee with Cohen community event. Coffee with Cohen is my opportunity to keep in touch with you about important issues affecting our community. And and today I have a special guest that I'd like to welcome, and that person is Ryan Sharp. Ryan is Hoboken's Director of Parking and Transportation. Welcome, Director.
Thank you, Councilman, for having me. Looking forward to it.
Great. Well, Director, if it's okay with you, I'd like to share a little bit of background about you for the viewers of Coffee with Cohen. I know you've done a lot of work for the city, but you're kind of a behind the scenes person. So let me share a little bit about you with them. In February, Ryan returned to his role as Director of. Hang on, I just want to make one adjustment to our viewers so they can see both of us. There we go. Ryan returned to City Hall in February as the Director of Parking and Transportation. It's a role that Ryan had previously held for 7 years, from 2017 to 2024. Not only does Ryan bring a host of institutional knowledge to the role as a transportation and parking director. But when he was there, he was directly responsible for establishing and rolling out Hoboken's award-winning Vision Zero initiative, which many of the viewers of Coffee with Cohen and residents of Hoboken are familiar with, which has made Hoboken one of the safest places in the entire country to walk, bike, and drive. Ryan also launched the Hop Shuttle service, which is very popular. People enjoy using the Park Mobile system for parking, and our city's successful and popular bike share programs, which is currently our City Bike program, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. Welcome back to City Hall, Director. Good to
Thank
have
you.
you with us. So you got to spend a break working with some transportation consultants and get a little bit of distance from City Hall, which I'm sure is giving you some perspective on all the work that you accomplished and things that we've done here in Hoboken. I'm wondering, how does it feel to return to the place where you've made such a big impact on our community?
It feels incredible. I had the honor and the privilege of having the opportunity to work for Hoboken for actually for 14 years, right? Prior to 2017, I was working in the Department of Transportation and Parking in a different role. Um, a good chunk of my career has been dedicated to Hoboken. I love the people of Hoboken. I love the people that work for the city of Hoboken. I've been around a lot of places and I've had an opportunity also to consult with cities, large and small, all over the country. And I can tell you that without a doubt, the city of Hoboken has one of the best first class uh, teams of professionals working for it compared to any city in anywhere in New Jersey, that's for sure. Um, Having the opportunity to work with those people is a real privilege. Mayor Jabor is someone who is so responsive to constituents and in ways that like even I can't understand sometimes. It's so impressive, and it's to be able to work for someone like that who's so engaged. Uh, it is a unique thing that doesn't happen in a lot of places. So it's an honor
Yeah.
and a privilege to be back.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you back, and I'm sure the people who work for you and with you are happy to have you back in a position with someone that they know and are comfortable working with. I'm wondering if maybe you could share some of your goals for the Transportation and Parking Department this year.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very busy year for transportation and parking. I mean, every year going back a long time has been pretty busy, but this year, kind of a few things that we're looking to do. One, the Vision Zero action plan that was adopted back in 2021 now is 5 years old, and the city has a grant to update that plan, right? So it's an opportunity to get more public feedback and to look at how things have gone the last few years with the program. A lot of the talk has been about not having any traffic deaths over 9 consecutive years. Uh, but there's another part of that story, and that's that the goal is also to eliminate traffic injuries as well within Hoboken, and there's still work to do
Right,
there, right? And we know
right.
there's a lot of near misses and so forth. So that's a big priority. Look forward to really getting going there. We're doing an ADA transition plan as well that is grant funded. So this is going to be the best opportunity the city has had in a long time to plan for just doing a better job of accommodating persons with disabilities within the public right of way and public facilities and things like that. I'm really excited about that. On the parking side, we're going to be finally kicking off the rehabilitation of the Midtown Garage
Hmm.
uh, over at 4th and Clinton Street. So that project is going to really improve the overall condition of Midtown Garage, and will take a couple of years to get completed, but is badly needed, as people who have interfaced with that garage know. So excited about that. We're also preparing to launch a new online parking permit system, which is something really exciting. The current system is well over a decade old and has a lot of issues. It's clunky. It works, but we're due for something better and really excited to kind of roll that out later in the year. We also have a ton of paving projects that are planned for the year. We're going to be repaving 13th Street from Willow Avenue all the way to Hudson Street, 3rd Street from Washington to River, Lower Sinatra Drive from Newark Street to 4th. Uh, Many other streets are slated for paving as well throughout the city that are going to be done as restoration work for a lot of utility projects that have been in the works for a couple of years now. So just a handful of things. There are many others, but those are some of the highlights.
It's a lot. It sounds like a busy, a full agenda for you. And I know that some of those, I mean, I just recently renewed my parking permits, and it definitely is a little clunky, the interface. And I
Yep.
had to go in personally to renew it because I was having difficulty doing it online. So that'll be
Mhm.
helpful. I also know that we have a lot of paving in Northwest Hoboken. You didn't mention, and I know, by the way, 13th Street between Hudson and Willow is in desperate need. So that is going to be, even though it's in the second ward, believe me, I know about it, and I've heard complaints about it. But also in the Northwest, where there's been a lot of infrastructure work and roads ripped up, I know that that neighborhood is very excited about being in part of the plan for the repaving up there. So that's all
Yes.
good stuff. Yeah. Um, one of the things that is front and center right now is the city's budget. I know that you have been working hard on budget issues, which is front of mind for Mayor DeBoer and her administration and for the city council. This evening, we're having a meeting where the mayor's budget is being introduced. And one of the things that I've been focused on is trying to find cost savings as well as to, well, while we're providing the essential services that residents expect and deserve, like the paving, like having, ease of renewing uh, their permits and everything else that we talked about, but also generating additional revenues to offset what looks like could be a large tax increase coming for Hoboken's taxpayers. And I know that you and your department have been focused on these issues as well, and some of them are things we're going to be voting on tonight. I'm wondering if maybe you could explain to the viewers of Coffee with Cohen some of these items that the council will be voting on relating to new revenues coming from the Department of Transportation and Parking to offset future tax increases.
Yeah, so from basically the moment I rejoined the city, we collectively have been tasked with doing a really deep dive to audit, uh, where can we make cuts to spending? How can we kind of grow the overall revenue base that we have as well? There was a budget survey that was put out to the public that was really helpful to get feedback from residents about some different options as part of that process. And so for transportation and parking on the spending cuts side, we're really excited that concurrently with renewing our city bike contract, which is also another agenda item that will be at the council meeting tonight, there's an opportunity to basically structure that program a little bit differently. Previously, the city was helping to subsidize that program jointly with Jersey City at the tune of about $200,000 per year. with the new contract, that subsidy is going to go away. So effectively, for this budget year, we're looking at about 200K in savings, while still providing a high level of service for City Bike. Um, and that's going to be $1 million of savings over 5 years. So that's something we're really excited about on the cut side. In terms of revenue generation, the parking utility, which is underneath the umbrella of transportation and parking, is one of the primary, revenue generating agencies within the city of Hoboken. And so we looked closely at, what are some potential options there to increase some additional revenue to help reduce the burden of a tax increase, but also do that in line with best practices and good overall policy, right? It's never just, hey, let's raise a fee for the sake of raising a fee. It's always tying that
Right,
back to good policy. And so there are a few ordinances on the agenda for adoption tonight at second reading. One of them, one of those ordinances would extend the hours that parking meters are in effect in the city's business districts past 9 p.m., from 9 p.m. to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. So the goal there is to kind of better align the times that the meters are in effect with when businesses are actually operating in Hoboken, right? Because that's
right,
one of the primary reasons that you have parking meters, right? You want to be able to drive turnover and improve overall access to the business community. And
right.
there's
And
almost
anybody
70
who's been on
businesses.
Washington Street, anyone who's been on Washington Street on a Friday night or Saturday night between 9 and
That's
midnight
right.
know who's coming and going into our bars and clubs and
Yeah.
in our businesses. And it is a bustling business district from 9 to midnight. So,
Yep.
before tonight's vote, it basically would be free parking on Washington between 9 and midnight, right? So that is I think a thoughtful change. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No, no, no worries. But we were very thoughtful too about, the impacts to different user groups for each of these ordinances. And so for that one with the meters, for example, if you're a resident permit holder and you live in these affected zones, you're going to be exempt, right? So you can still park there for free, nothing else required. Um, and if you're a visitor, you don't have a resident permit, then from 9 to midnight, you would have to pay, right? We also recognize that there could be downstream impacts on workers of local businesses that are operating after 9 p.m. And so we're going to be expanding the helper program, which provides steeply discounted parking for employees of Hoboken businesses. We have that program typically set up during the daytime, right? Where you can park for up to 12 hours for just $6 at one of the municipal garages. We're going to apply that program to the evening as well. So it'll be a nice benefit for workers and actually apply each day of the week too. So you'll get that benefit outside of Friday and Saturday if you're working these later shifts. So
That's
that's just
great.
one
And
example.
and that I assume that's something that you'll be, working with the Hoboken Business Alliance and like letting them know that this is something that the workers and the Hoboken businesses could benefit from and, take advantage of, that sort of thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Great. Great. Okay. Well, that every little bit helps, both in terms of cost cutting and in terms of, thoughtful revenue additions. So I'm looking forward to supporting those things tonight. Uh, one parking issue which has affected us I mentioned the repaving in the northwest of Hoboken, with all of the infrastructure work that's been going on in the northwest, with new sewer hookups, new lines, new electrical, new street paving, and new construction of significant projects that are going up around 15th and Clinton, 15th and Grand. Uh, that the workers and businesses in that neighborhood have appealed to me to see if there are things that we can do to help them with parking for their employees, for their visitors, for their customers. And I know that the Rockefeller Group has been, which is one of about like a 3 block project going on over there. They have a lot over on 15th Street that is basically being unused right now, and we've been talking to them about creating a new surface lot for the city, at least temporarily, before they start building their construction on that property, to give folks who are dealing with a lot of no parking signs and that sort of thing, a reliable place for them to park. So I'm wondering if maybe you can give a little update on that. I know the city council authorized the city to enter into a lease uh, for that, and that's something that I've been directly involved with, talking with both representatives of the Rockefeller Group and working with representatives of Mayor Jabor's administration on this.
Yeah, it's something that we're still in negotiations with Rockefeller on. And we're trying to expedite that as quickly as possible so that we can get that temporary lot open. We know that it's been a disruptive period for sure in the Northwest with a lot of
Yeah.
construction and we're certainly doing everything we can to try to move this forward and try to get some relief there on the parking front as quickly as possible. So we hope that
Great.
we'll have an update coming in the next few weeks to
That's great.
um,
Well, thank you for your patience and negotiating on that. Hopefully, we're get to a win-win so we can support our neighbors and these businesses who've been there through COVID and everything else. And we
mhm.
want them to continue to make it through this next phase of growing in this neighborhood. So thanks for your work on that, and to Director Brown and our outside council and everybody else. Um, you mentioned the city bike program, and I remember how excited I was when the city bike was rolled out. Literally was rolled out, and I remember you were part of it, like the initial bike rides and everything else. And I'm really proud that outside of the transportation hub, that the single largest use of city bike station is on 11th in Washington, where there's something like 40,000 rides a year, which is really amazing, and that the trend keeps going in terms of rides originating and ending at that location. And I'm hoping to grow that station even bigger because I think it can accommodate more folks there. I did notice that there was an announcement last week between Jersey City and Hoboken about the new agreement, and you mentioned some of the cost savings that relate to that. I'm just wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about what you see in the new contract, and I know that if we don't renew this contract, that we have a risk of a lapse of service, which I know that the people I represent do not want to see. We want to see it keep going, but maybe you could just talk a little bit about it, and the service improvements that are included with this agreement.
Yeah, so there is a resolution on the agenda tonight to award a new contract to Lyft, who operates City Bike. And as part of that contract, it's being restructured compared to how it was previously, right? So there'll be no cost to the city, which is really exciting. Um, and as part of that announcement, there was also a pilot program that was included in there that's pretty cool. There will be what's called an overflow zone pilot that's going to be tested in a couple areas in Hoboken and Jersey City. One area in particular in Hoboken will be on River Street, down by the like Wells Fargo Bank. If you're familiar with that area,
Hmm.
um, basically it's taking uh, a no parking zone near the corner where oftentimes, there would be striping or those vertical delineator posts or flexible bollards would be installed there to daylight the intersection for visibility and safety. It's basically using that zone as an overflow area, right? One of the most frustrating things, uh, with City Bike, right? City Bike is a great program, but we've all probably experienced it if you've used the program before, where you go to dock a bike and you get there and none of the docks are available, right? They're all full of bikes.
Right.
And so you have to find the next location, which can be a couple blocks away, right? There's an inconvenience there. So to try to address that, uh, basically it's a geo-fence zone in the app. So if you get to the station over there by like the area of First and River and all the docks are full, you can just park the bike by itself basically in this little striped zone, and that'll be recognized in the mobile app, and you'll be returning your bike effectively, just as you would at a dock. So that overflow space should help mitigate some of those issues where people return, there's not a dock available, and we'll see how it works. If it works well, then that could be expanded elsewhere too. Mm, mm,
That's great.
mm.
Uh, well, I'm looking forward to supporting that this evening as well. And no cost is always a good thing. So keep a that's always a great thing. When I set out my newsletter, and if people would like to subscribe to it, you can always send me an email at hobokenphil@gmail. I'll be happy to add you to uh, my monthly newsletter that I issue. I let people know that you were going to be my guest director, and I also invited people if they had questions for you and me to submit them. And I gotta admit, this was a record. I think I've said up front, this is my 117th Coffee with Cohen event. I had never gotten more constituent requests than I did for today, and I know we're not going to be able to get through all of them. I've lifted a few from the top, and hopefully you can address the rest in writing when I forward them to you. But let's jump into them. First up, constituent asked about citywide parking versus vehicle ownership. What is the total parking capacity in Hoboken's public and private garages, and how does that compare to the number of registered vehicles owned by Hoboken residents? That's an excellent question. So,
That's a great question. So all in for on-street parking in Hoboken, there's about 9,000 spaces, somewhere in that range, just a hair under that. And that includes everything. That's metered parking, it's permit parking, it's loading zones, you name it. All in, that's the number. For off-street, municipal garages that are controlled, owned by the city, there's another 2,000 plus spaces across those garages. So, in total, the whole public supply that we have control over as a city is, a little over 11,000. Um, there are over 11,000 resident parking permits that are issued annually. Uh, Most of those permit holders do not have garage access, right? So, one of the biggest things that we found in the recent Curb Reimagined study that was completed at the end of last year was that the oversubscription of resident parking permits in Hoboken is significant and really the primary driving factor for kind of the parking challenges that you feel if you're a driver in neighborhoods within Hoboken. And just to quantify that for a second, uh, most blocks in Hoboken, most permit parking zones have about 3 times the number of parking permits that are active relative to the number of parking spaces available on a particular block, right? So a 3-to-1 ratio. So when you're
wow.
circling for parking at 6 o'clock at night and you can't find a space, that's the primary driving factor, right? And I'm really excited to kind of take that on and, you know, later this year, hopefully next year, we'll have some money to hire a consultant to look at some of the considerations that came out of that plan and potentially build a task force and really go all in on trying to evaluate and then create an implementation plan for addressing that particular challenge of reforming the permit parking program.
Well, that answer segues right into my next question, which is something that I know is near and dear to the Fifth Ward, and I have to say I was an original tenant of the 916 Guard Street Garage. I have my lease from 2002, for my first time, and I was there on the day that it opened, and I was evicted and sent out to another garage when it was permanently shut down last year. So I have lived through the life cycle of that garage, and the question I have relates to that. A member of the public asked me, says she's interested in an update on the 916 Garden Street garage. There's been no public info about the next steps, and I know the neighborhood is anxious for it to be a working garage again. Clearly, that when you have a 3-to-1 ratio of cars to available spots on the street, uh, popping a few hundred garage spots into the neighborhood would be a wonderful thing. But just as a refresher for folks who lived through that garage, and also as a councilman representing the neighborhood, who was not just a tenant but looking at the financial aspects of it, it was essentially a money pit. The way it was operating, the number of breakdowns, the number of requirement for emergency repairs. We were, memory serves, I think it was like $250,000 a year were flowing out annually negative out of that garage, and it just wasn't becoming sustainable for the city. And looking at our budget situation now, it seems even more clear that not operating that garage is was the right call at that time. But I guess, Director, is there any update that you can provide with respect to the future of that lot and where things are going?
Yeah, so the city hired a consultant. It's a complex project, right? This is not your typical parking garage rehabilitation. Um, so we had to bring in outside professionals to help us prepare basically an RFP or scope of work to do what we're going to try to be or try to make a public-private partnership. The economics of trying to bond for to pay for the rehabilitation of the garage don't make a ton of sense financially for the city, right? You kind of it would be hard to ever get out of the red there to take that approach. So we're trying to set up a model where a private operator could come in and the city would retain the property, and through a long-term lease, that operator would be responsible for rehabilitating the mechanical equipment and the software and other components in the garage. And then they would operate the garage for a long-term period of time. And that would be the most efficient and cost-effective way to bring that garage back online and modernize it to make it a state-of-the-art facility moving forward. So we're at the point
Yeah.
where we're almost ready to have the RFP process wrapped up, and then hopefully by this summer we'll be ready to go out to RFP and get that process started.
Okay. And then in terms of time frame, if things go according to plan and the RFP goes out in the summer, giving time for responses to RFPs and then making proposals to, I, I assume, to the city council about next steps, what is a realistic timeline, would you say, if things go well in terms of getting a response from an interested vendor and everything else, a bid that satisfies whatever criteria we lay out? Uh, are we looking at a possible, uh, new operator in 27? Are we thinking 28, the end of 26? Like, I'm sure that Adina, who asked the question, would be curious to know, like, what's a realistic time frame for if things go well? And of course, they may not. But if they did, what would
Yeah.
be a best case scenario?
Well, if things move forward, ideally we get, a vendor that responds that has the credentials and capability to take this on. Uh, it's probably a 2027,
Yeah.
project in terms of the work that needs to go into replacing all that equipment and updating the software and so forth. So yeah, it's unlikely realistically that that garage is going to be open in 2026.
Yep.
Um, so our goal would try to be to aim for 2027.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that. And hopefully that's a helpful answer for Adina. I think it is. Next one. I got a request from a resident who wants to know whether the street signs for Ninth and Madison can be reinstalled. They were taken down during construction and never replaced. Is that something that you guys could turn to, Director?
Yep, absolutely. So the paving for that project is going to be happening relatively soon, and as a part of that scope of work, we'll make sure that the street signs are reinstalled.
Thank you. All right. Question from Elaine, and this is the last constituent question I got for today. Uh, Elaine asks that she would like the city to post the alternative location of bus stops whenever there is a bus diversion scheduled. She understands that they were posted for construction up by 14th Street when 14th Street was closed, but gives the example of the Little League parade. And I've gotten notes from Elaine before about like the Ragamuffin parade or other parades where Washington Street is temporarily closed. But she said that the day before the Little League parade, she went to the bus stop over at 9th Street and did not see a diversion notice. And she's wondering if you have any response to that, and whether you could look into posting diversion notices when Washington Street is closed and someone goes to get the bus and doesn't realize that the bus is not going to be coming that day.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Whenever we have a detour for buses, we do work with NJ Transit to try to make sure that signs are posted there. And we have received complaints at times for that, and it's a top priority for us to try to do better and have that as a standard for every time there's a detour there moving forward. So we're working on it. Mm,
Thank you, Director.
mm,
Uh, And that's all we've got today. Again, I have more questions which I'm going to forward to you in writing. And if you can turn to them and respond to them in writing, I would appreciate that. If folks would like to send you a note, if they didn't watch, it's certainly possible. I post this on my Facebook page, and a lot of people watch it because of work or whatever. They're not able to watch it in live. If someone has a question and they didn't submit it, what's the best way to send it to you, Director?
They can email me directly at my email address, rsharp, that's RSHARP, at HobokenNJ.gov.
rsharp at hobokennj.gov. I'll put that into the comments section below so that people are watching this, they'll be able to see that. Director, thanks so much for making the time to join me at Coffee with Cohen today. Best of luck with you with your return to City Hall. I'll see you tonight at our council meeting and look forward to working with you together, addressing all these important issues.
Great. Thank you for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Got it. All right. So now I've got some other issues I want to discuss. Uh, First up, I did mention the Hoboken budget. Uh, I just want to say a few things about the budget. For too long, in my opinion, Hoboken's municipal surplus has been used as a rainy day fund. That's how some of my colleagues refer to it, uh, as a short-term solution to avoid larger tax increases. Unfortunately, it's not a rainy day fund. It is a surplus which is there for a purpose, and that it should be a stable, self-replenishing reserve. That is what is considered best practices for municipal government. And basically, rating the surplus for the last few years has created a real hole in the city's budget, a structural deficit. We used to have a $24 million municipal surplus in 2018. That was the surplus. As of last year uh, to now, it's now a $10 million surplus. So we have a $14 million uh, uh, reduction based on going year after year trying to, uh, I'd say for political reasons, say, I don't want to raise taxes. Nobody ever got elected saying they wanted to raise taxes, and no one ever got reelected saying they wanted to raise taxes. Uh, but to treat our surplus as a way to offset tax increases was a short-sighted decision. Mayor Jabor has been transparent about this. She has identified and inherited a $17 million budget gap. She has worked with her administration to address this really serious $17 million hole. The deficit was so significant that it caused Standard and Poor's, Hoboken's rating agency, to put Hoboken on a negative outlook, which is not good. They did maintain our AA plus bond rating, which is good. I mean, we didn't get a downward rating adjustment, but by being put on a negative outlook, it's a clear warning to us that if we don't do a more responsible job in terms of our budgeting this year, we could land in a situation where we do face a ratings downgrade. And if that happened, when we need to bond, it's going to cost taxpayers millions of dollars of additional money in order to pay for that bonding. So I don't want to be put in that situation. A good example of that is last year we found out, totally unexpectedly, when Sinatra Drive started having big sinkholes, that our retaining wall that holds the Hudson River out was 80 years old and porous and needed to be rebuilt. This is not something that was on anyone's radar screen, for better or worse. We needed to bond for it. It was a $30 million expense. We wanted to get our waterfront in good shape again so that people could walk on the waterfront safely, that people could ride their bikes safely, people could drive on it safely. And you've seen the construction that's resulted from that. Uh, that $30 million bond was not anything anybody had expected, and it would cost millions more in terms of rent. I'm sorry, not in terms of rent, in terms of interest finance payments over the years that would really saddle Hoboken taxpayers for years and years to come. So I'm focused on trying to identify responsible ways of increasing municipal revenues and expenses. with the goal of minimizing future tax increases. Uh, Mayor DeJour and her administration have cut down from $17 million hole down to, I believe it's around $13.5 million hole, to save about $3.5 million, uh, which is getting us under 19% from about 24%. Obviously, that's moving in the right direction. But I think what's extremely important is that we be transparent with the community. We treat them like adults. We tell them what it costs to run municipal government, and then our taxes cover our expenses. We should not be uh, playing games with our surplus or any other taxpayer accounting tricks. Uh, we should be clear about what it costs to finance the cost of city government. We want to pay for the services that we expect, uh, but we also need to cover those payments. We want to have contracts with our unions. We want to be pay those contracts. We give the employees what they are entitled to under their contracts, but we also need to be able to uh, encourage our unions to come back to the table and look at ways that maybe they could achieve additional cost savings that may reduce some benefits, but would save jobs and prevent layoffs, which is really what we're trying to do. So it's going to take sacrifice from a lot of different places to get to a final budget, but I'm committed to get to one that is reasonable and covers our city's expenses in a way uh, that makes sense and does not jeopardize our solid rating with the bond agencies. Look forward to dealing with that. If you have questions about that, you can always reach out to me at hobokenphil@gmail. I'm happy to respond to them. I did note in my newsletter two other things. There was a big win for a little business in town that happened last month. Blue Violet's dispensary is Hoboken girls voted last year as their favorite dispensary in the city of Hoboken. I've been outspoken about the fact that not only are cannabis dispensaries legal, regulated, something like 85% of the people of Hoboken voted for uh, cannabis to be legalized, which was uh, consistent with what the city council voted on to approve them being opened. They are adding new municipal revenues to the city that didn't exist before. They're addressing a demand that is needed for adult use cannabis products, and that is all going along pretty well. They had been threatened by some folks in the city who had pursued litigation against them. There had been a lot of fear mongering about these businesses coming to town. Uh, the city council last year endorsed these businesses, supported these businesses, said that there are good neighbors in our business community and they're being well run and well regulated. But yet, the folks who were suing them, claiming that they were too close to a school, uh, insisted, despite the fact that the New Jersey Appellate Division ruled in, I think it's like a 30-page decision, that they were uh, properly there. They had applied at the time before the 600-foot rule limiting location of dispensaries to schools went into effect. So they had timely made their application to the Cannabis Review Board. Yet litigants continued on insisting that this be done, perhaps to protect children. But these businesses are only serving adults. The doors are locked. There have been no complaints about children using or going in and out of these establishments. But yet it went all the way to New Jersey Supreme Court. On March 23rd, the New Jersey Supreme Court dismissed the case, said that it was moot. And I'm happy that one of the reasons, or maybe the main reason they found that it was moot, was because the ordinance that I co-sponsored and passed last year, basically grandfathering those establishments that had applied to the Cannabis Review Board before the city council changed the rules on them, uh, with respect to distance requirements relating to schools, went into effect, that they were able to rely on their approvals and all the money they'd spent on their businesses and their locations, complying with the ordinances, paying their taxes, that they were able to operate in peace. So I congratulate the owners of Blue Iris Dispensary, Max and Lauren Thompson. I wish them well. and hope that they continue to grow their business and serve our community and responsibly run it as, again, Hoboken Girls' favorite dispensary last year. So good for them. Congratulations, Max and Lauren. And finally, for everyone, one of the things that are one of the best things I think about living in Hoboken, there's so many great things about living in our community, but the Uptown Farmers Market is a special place. You get live music with local artists, you get fresh food from local produce and food makers and bakers, farms. It's a wonderful thing. And it's coming. May 2nd will be the first Saturday that it comes back under the viaduct at its regular place. Uh, it's one of my favorite things to do on a Saturday morning. And if you're out there and you're enjoying it, you might well see me because I like to go out there and just enjoy the food, enjoy the seeing my neighbors, checking out the music, and talking to all the great vendors that are out there. So that's that. I want to thank Director Ryan Sharp for joining me today. He did a great job answering all your questions. Thank you for all your questions. I really appreciated getting so many excellent questions today. And again, for folks who didn't get their questions answered, Ryan will be emailing those answers to you. And for those of you who didn't have questions presented in advance but would like to, you can always send them to me at hobokenphil@gmail.com, or you can email Director Sharp at rsharp@hobokenNJ.gov. And with that, that brings us to the end of Coffee with Cohen. Hope to see you. My next one is going to be on Monday, March 11th at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be over at Anthony David's, which is a great place. And going to have a special guest, Congressman Rob Menendez will be joining me. So if you want to meet up with your congressman, you want to meet up with your councilman, uh, come on out on May 11th for my next one at 9 a.m. 8 a.m. actually. See you, everybody. Thanks a lot.